Продукция сумасшедшего русского презентует.
Hey guys, and welcome to another episode of MMOramble. Today we'll be looking at World of Tanks. It's a lobby-based MMO, I guess, vehicle shooter, obviously since it has tanks in the name, made by a Russian game company called wargaming.net. It's not one of those games that I got a chance to play at PAX. These guys had a huge booth set up, and they had like 30-some stations set up where you can just sit down and play their game, and they gave you, their like a disc with some of their in-game currency on it, which is pretty cool. So this game is free to play. Another one of those, no upfront cost games. You just download and you start playing. Of course, there are, to keep the game going, they have to rely on microtransactions to make this happen. Which, if you pay attention to the MMO genre at all, it's been becoming a little bit more popular over here in the U.S. So let's just get right down to it. I'm gonna go through the different little aspects of the the front end of the game, and then we'll actually get into a match, and I'll show you how bad I am at this. So the first thing to really notice, obviously, I have a tank right in front of me. This is my garage, right? So I have currently I have 6 tanks in my garage. Tanks vary from light tanks, medium tanks, heavy tanks, to self-propelled guns, to artilleries, and tank destroyers. So there's quite a bit to kind of wrap your head around at first, but they do start you off easy with just a couple of light tanks, and you can kind of go from there. Currently, there are 4 countries in the game in terms of which tanks you want to play with. There's the USSR, there is the Germans, the US, and the French, and all these tanks are based in the kind of the World War II period, since there was a lot of innovation, as far as mechanized warfare is concerned during those times. This game can get pretty in depth. It's not as simple as just picking out a tank that you like and going from there. There is a progression that starts each tank, or I guess each country has different tiers of tanks. So the higher up in the tiers you go, I guess the more powerful the tanks become, and the more advanced, and so on and so forth. So for example, the tank I have selected now is the Russian T-46 light tank. It is a tier 3 tank, and if you notice that there is some stuff here that we're looking at, and let's go back into it, where it says I have 1870 experience, and also I can gain ×2 experience for the first victory each day. So if we think about that just for a second, the experience is pretty obvious. What that is, basically, when I kill tanks using this tank, I gain experience. Now, it's not a general, kind of you level up as a player. Each tank gets their own experience. So, my T-46 is going to have different experience than my T-28 medium tier 4 tank that I have. And each tank has its own research tree to get a better engine, to get better treads, to get a better radio for detection, for example, to get a better turret so it turns faster, and to get better guns, of course, which is probably the most fun, because the bigger the gun, the more ridiculous it looks, and so on and so forth. So let's take a look at the research tree real quick so you have an idea what it looks like. It's similar to, if you think about like a real-time strategy game, right? You're researching kind of better armor, better guns, and so on and so on. And each piece of research takes a certain amount of experience. So, for example, if I wanted to train this tier 5 gun, it would take 2,200 experience to train. Once I actually, to research. Once I actually research it, I actually have to mount it on the tank. So, as we can look at here, it takes 2,200 experience and 40,130 credits. So, it also takes kind of the in-game currency to actually install it on the tank, kind of using that as a kind of a money sink. So that's the research tree, that's the experience part. So let's talk about real quick, since I already mentioned it, the credits. So whenever you battle, you go into a battle, you earn credits whether you win or lose. Of course, if you win and you do well in terms of killing other tanks, you gain more credits, of course. And the more credits you gain, the better you're off, obviously, because that means you can buy more tanks, you can buy better parts for your tanks, and also that means you can actually afford to repair your tanks, because as you'll see after I go into a battle, and I'll probably get killed, once you come out of the battle, your tank will be destroyed or at least damaged, and you actually have to spend money to repair the tank by going into the service tab here. So right now this tank is 100%. Great, you know, it'll tell me how much it costs to repair here, and also if I use up ammunition by shooting other tanks, obviously, I have to resupply that ammunition. So again, you know, it starts off easy in terms of the concept. You pick a tank and you go shoot things, but as you go deeper and deeper, you know, it becomes much more complicated. Not to make a joke here, but you know, tankception. We need to go deeper. So that's kind of the basics of it, right? So we have tanks and all this kind of fun stuff. And each tank, if you look at on the left here, as I'm kind of mousing around here, you see that there's these guys with there's, you know, kind of Russian names, because we have a Russian tank. So each tank has their own crew, which is kind of neat because it gives another level of customization to your tank. So each tank has a commander, a gunner, a driver, a radio operator. Depends on the tank. You might have 1 or 2 radio operators, and a loader, which obviously loads the actual shells into the tank. And the more experience they gain, the higher their percent of training goes up. So in this case, all my guys are 56% trained. So the higher they go, the faster you'll load, and the you know, the higher the efficiency is. You know, in terms of I'll drive faster, I'll detect people faster, and so on and so on. So that's another aspect of it, and you can train them manually. You can even, once they reach 100%, they will have a perk slot open up where you can actually give them stuff like, you know, your tank will camouflage better, or they will aim faster because, you know, this perk. So it's almost like speccing your tank crew in a way to gain benefits for that specific tank. So, you know, that's awesome, right? But we don't want to be stuck with the same tanks all the time. So we actually need to buy tanks, and I talked about how, you know, we use credits to buy tanks, and all, and we research tanks to get more advanced tanks. So in order to kind of figure out where we're going, we can go to the tech tree, and as you can see here, we have all the different countries I talked about. So USA, Germany, France, and the USSR. So for example, I'm kind of trying to get this KV heavy tank. So I need to figure out, okay, how do I get to that? And if you've played, again, any other RTS game or just general game with any kind of research in it, you know all you need to do is look at, okay, well, in order to get to the KV, I need to research this one, and this one, which I've already done. So my next tank I'll have is the KV. I just need to save up the experience to research it, which is about 14,000 if I remember right. So it's almost like a way of speccing. So you can say, okay, you know, for the USSR, I only want heavy tanks. So you spec down the heavy tank tree, and once you get there, that's all you get. Or you know, if you say, okay, well, for Germany, I want only light tanks or medium, or whatever, you know, whatever the case is. So you can kind of spec that way, or you can just kind of spread the love around, as it were. So that's really the basics. The other really one thing to mention, you know, we talked about the microtransactions in the beginning. And when I went to PAX, I got a little code that gave me 2,000 gold, as they call it, which is their kind of currency that you pay real money to get. And gold gets you a couple things. You can get premium tanks that have a set number of parts. You can't research anything for them. That's already set, the fully trained crew and everything. So it's an easy way to jump in if you just want to spend some real money on a better tank or whatever. Also, you can get a premium account, which I have. I've used some of that 2,000 gold to pay for a premium account. Basically, it gives you 50% more experience and 50% more credits per game. So you know, it's almost like adding subscription, because you can just keep, you know, resupplying that gold and just keep buying it. So it's almost like some other free-to-play games, like Lord of the Rings, have a free-to-play option and a premium option where you can pay a subscription fee. Almost like that, but not the same, because it's not a subscription per se. But I think you can kind of see where I'm going with that. So that's really all there is to it here. I'm gonna go ahead and just stop this video for now, and next one I'll be posting will be a match